Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Joe's Minibike Reunion Podcast. I'm here with the Evil One, Evil Ed. It's season 4, episode
9.
Episode 9. What a day it's been. What a day it's been. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for tuning in. We want to thank our sponsors, our friends from Pioneer Car Electronics. We have our friends over at Studz. In fact, we'll have Eric from Studz joining us a little bit later on in the podcast. Who else we got, Ed? We got
Green Filter.
Green Filter.
F&B Racing.
Can't forget F&B.
Go Powersports.
And about F&B, they're giving away another short frame roller to some lucky participant for the upcoming Joe's Minibike Reunion, which is October the 19th right here. Who else we got, Ed? We
Pioneer Stereo.
Pioneer, we got them. Studz, Go-Kart USA as well. So thanks to our sponsors for the continued support. Today started off one of those days. We're laughing about it. Christ, there was a time we may have been crying or fighting about it. But I got a text this morning, and it began this day, which was the unfortunate news about Jesse Combs passing. And for those of you who are in the automotive world, obviously that's a name that you're probably all familiar with. Jesse was a big part of the automotive aftermarket community. She was the world's fastest woman from all the descriptions that you see out there. She was also a big endorser of CRC, one of our sponsors as well. So I'm sure that in addition to all the enthusiasts in the industry, there's many manufacturers who she worked with that are just in shock. And rest in peace, Jesse. We were talking about it, Ed. She was doing what she loved doing.
Yeah, right.
You know, you heard about it, yesterday afternoon?
I heard about it last night.
How'd you hear about it?
On Facebook.
Yeah. I got that early morning text. For some reason, I did not hear any of it last night, which was probably good. You don't take anything for granted, right? Enjoy your days while you're here, because I'm sure she didn't have that planned, right? So today we've got a lot happening on the podcast. We're going to be talking to Eric from Studz, StudzRacing.com, their new website. Eric has been putting together, like he always does, a couple really strong events in Michigan. So we'll get the inside skinny on what went down there, and then we'll also find out if it's true that he's coming to the event. And a lot of people want to know if he's bringing what I think is that big frame Ruttman, that custom bike that he has.
Oh, yeah.
There's some photos that we posted up there, and he's getting a lot of interest, rightfully so, on that bike. We're also going to jump in and check out a guy who's making big waves in a little way. Evan Ruble with his new micro mini bike line. And we'll have a chance to find out what the deal is with all these micro bikes and what the big hoopla is. I've got one of them that I'm looking at now, and one of them in the back there from Temecula Bob, and I actually have ordered one from Evan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting mine. But we're gonna just begin by letting everybody know that registration's open for Joe's Minibike Reunion. Again, it's October the 19th right here in La Crescenta, CV Park. We've got folks coming from all over. Thank you for that. You can register for only $20 if you pre-register, and then also get a $5 off coupon from our friends at Campbell Automotive. And if you wait until the day of the show, it's $10 more. It's $30. And this year, whether you pre-register or if you register on site, we didn't just raise the prices, but we are providing every participant with this custom 17-inch by 17-inch Swiss Tracks mat that your bike and kickstand can sit on. It'll have a nice JMBR logo, as well as Pioneer, who's making these available. So for your additional $5 fee, you'll also get to take home a mat. That's pretty cool, huh, Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, we've had a little bit of, a couple week lapse, 3 weeks, maybe before we had our last podcast. Only because, in real life, things happen. And Emmanuel's brother was going through some tough times and still is. So we just made room for Emmanuel to take care of what needed to go on there. We hope everything's working out with your brother. Good. Yep. And we have 2 more podcasts that are planned for upcoming month of September. And then we'll also squeeze in a couple more for October as well. Hey, a couple things going on, Ed. I'm not sure if you heard, but Joe Petralia, who works with the Muscle Mini Bike Build Group and Justin Bett. They're coming off their first year of doing the competition, the Muscle Mini Bike build, or the build off. And Joe is going to be launching a new series of videos, how-to videos. And Joe's always been a smart guy, and he's done a lot to keep our hobby going, not only in Arizona, but all across. He travels a lot, and he's a hands-on kind of a guy. So you can check out and find out more about the video series that Joe's launching. I think the first one's on a Tillotson build-up that he's doing. It's called the Tilly. We support Joe and hope that he has a lot of success with the upcoming video launch. I had a chance to speak recently to Frank over at F&B, and I had gotten confused about a short frame or a long frame. And this year it's going to be a short frame roller. And I thought, I've got a few bikes, but I don't have an F&B bike. Have you ever had an F&B bike?
No.
Yeah.
No, I have a Temecula Bob bike.
I have one too.
Stretched.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, so there's some update with the drag bike, I understand. The drag bike that you and upcoming Hall of Famer Dave Clark built for the build-off.
Yeah.
You said that was sold, and you asked me who I thought bought it, and I sat there for a second. It's like, well, I didn't know. Who did buy it?
I did. I bought Dave out.
Like a business deal, right?
Yep.
So for those folks who didn't remember, maybe missed the podcast, tell us a little bit about that Bonanza. That was that light blue
Yeah,
stretch.
it's stretched. It's raked pretty good. I put my blue Wazoom,
Right.
Uncle Frank's blue Wazoom in it, and Dave did the framework. And we took it out one time, had a little wobble in it. But I think if we put a steering dampener on it, it'll be all right.
Gotcha. Yeah, and those bikes, how fast of a bike is that?
That's like probably, well, with me on it, maybe a 70 mile an hour.
It's a fast bike.
Yeah.
And so you shake them
My
out
other
a little bit.
Bonanza went 70 with me on it, and then when I let the other jockey ride it, he went like 80 on it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm getting any skinnier by the day.
Yeah.
Watch these little guys that appear to be like 110 pounds soaking wet. Well, we got a little bit of some.
Watch out, Justin Bett. Might sneak up on you one day.
So I missed the last AV ride. How was that?
Oh, it was pretty good.
Good turnout?
Yeah, it was all right. We had to leave early. Justin and Eichler went with me, and we showed up, rode a little bit, and then we had to leave because he had something to do with his family.
Yeah.
So we didn't stay very long.
I missed it. I was out of town. I've been traveling a lot, but I bet there's an upcoming AV ride. Jake Moe will find out a little bit more about the details there. Speaking of what's happening, Jake Moe. Well, look, I want to get in Eric from Studz because Eric's out on the other side of the U.S. in Michigan, and those guys got to sleep. We're going to try to dial up Eric from Studz and see if we can find out what the hell's happening over there. Yep. Okay, so here we go. Let's get him on the phone here. One. All right.
Hey, buddy.
Eric, it's Joe and Evil Ed. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Welcome to the podcast. What's happening, my man?
Eric?
Oh, not much. How you going, E?
Not bad. Still recuperating from painting.
Yeah, I saw that little clip of you earlier.
I haven't painted one in, I don't know, over a year.
Yeah, he did a good job. He's like an old veteran jumping back in there. You know how it goes, right? Just jump back on the bike.
Oh yeah. I can't do that stuff. I've tried. I don't have the training.
Well, he was, we all assumed a few things when we went there, like there was going to be a spray booth there for one. And once we realized none of that was available to us, we kind of ad-libbed. And I'm surprised, but it really came out as if it was done in a professional spray booth. And we're looking forward to unveiling that at the upcoming Joe's Minibike Reunion on the 19th. Eric, you've been busy, and you've also been getting a little notoriety on the pictures that we recently shared on our mini bike page, but they were from the recent ride. And where was that lake that was in the background there in Michigan?
It's funny how many people, even in Michigan, don't know what lake that is. But yeah, that's Lake Huron. So one of our Great Lakes.
That was great photo. What was the turnout there? It looked like you had a good group. It looked like a beautiful day. Was that just one of your rides, or was that a ride that was a part of an event?
That's a ride we've been doing for, a little over 10 years now. We just call it the Ugly event, which started off as drag racing and camping and all that stuff. And one of the local guys just decided to have a ride. So it was called the 50-50 ride, which back in the day was 50 miles at 50 miles an hour. Well, now you can imagine, it's more like the 50-70 ride. Some people race, some people go slow. Actually, I took my kids the last couple of years, so even if you want to putz around, it's a blast. The faster you go, unfortunately, the ride is over quicker, but it's awesome. It's out in the country. It goes from the drag strip all the way to Lake Huron. It empties out at a beach. It's beautiful. So good time to ride. It's a haul, though. It's more of like an endurance ride, so it's really cool. You find out who doesn't have their stuff just right real quick. We have the trailer of shame that follows everybody behind. And this year, I think we had probably about 14 or 15 people on the trailer. And last year was almost 30 people on the trailer. So it's a lot of parts fall off, and sometimes, unfortunately, people get hurt. Their stuff's not safe. We try to look at it before they get on the ride, but everybody thinks they've got the fastest bike, and everybody thinks that they've got what it takes to do it. But if you don't have your gearing right, 50 miles is a long run. I've seen it all.
I had no idea that was a 50-mile ride.
Yes, it was 25 miles each way.
So that on its own, it's like an endurance competition. And to your point, gee, I remember even on the Hot Rod Power Tour, where we would take these hot rods cross country, same thing. Everybody was just jamming to get their bikes, or in this case, their cars done, without realizing that they may not have quite been ready to go, especially for such a long trip. And it's no different than with mini bikes too. How thoughtful to have that trailer, although the name isn't one where you'd want to be on it, the Hall of Shame trailer. What was it called, Eric?
Well, the Trailer of Shame.
The Trailer of Shame. I like that. But nevertheless, how nice, because when it's one thing when your bike goes, not only is that a blow to you because you can't enjoy the day, it's a blow to your ego. It's kind of a blow to your buddies because they got to deal with your sorry ass while your bike won't ride. But it's also compounded if there's nobody there where you can even put the bike on so they can get brought back home. So it's nice that you have that there. Is that something that you created, or you have some volunteers that decided to do that?
I wish I could say I created it, but I didn't. As some of my predecessors, Frank Matheson from Old School, he was good friends with the track owner, and he pretty much put that ride together. Some people drag race, some people like the ride. Kind of the ride recently in the last few years has kind of sort of taken over the drag scene because it's so cool. I'd say it's one of the coolest events in the country, probably. Don't have to worry about cops. There's not a lot of traffic. Fun camping. I think they charge like $10 per day, to camp and hang out at the drag strip. So it's pretty reasonable. Really
nice. You mentioned your son, and I see him now. He's at that point. He's an athlete. I see him. He's a pitcher, and he's having fun. He's always got a smile on his face. You had him working behind the counter. Got a little Eric in the wings, being groomed to take over the baton, huh?
Yeah, he loves it. He had a little Ruttman. He calls it the root beer float, and unfortunately, he was on the trailer this year. I left his engine stock, and he's probably got about 150 miles on that thing, and it just couldn't. We had the governor pinned back a little bit for him, and he was going fast. We took that engine apart. It just everything seized together. That rod was so hot. So this year we're giving a little built motor. We got a little rod and flywheel for him, so it can handle the ride. But it was sad to see him get put on the trailer this year.
Yeah, but he'll appreciate it all the more as he gets older and he completes the rides, and he'll have a lot of completed rides, I'm sure, before his time's up.
Yeah, good time. He made his first pass on the 8th mile, and he did I think his fastest rate. I only let him go down a few times, but he got about almost 49 miles an hour in the 8th. That's pretty good for a 10-year-old.
Well, plus once they get that confidence, typically they're a little nervous at that age, but once they get that confidence, they've got that fear release button that we don't as adults. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. You posted a picture of your bike. Now, that looks like a large frame. I don't know if it's extended. Is that a Ruttman, that bike that you've recently posted up on the social media?
Well, it was originally a Harrison, which is really popular and made here in Michigan. And I just always wanted a big wheeled bike. So, I mean, that thing, we stretched it about 6 or 7 inches. And actually, we widened it about 5 inches. Those Hoosiers are
I see those.
Almost 7 inches wide. So probably wasn't my smartest decision as far as to ride at that speed with those square tires. But my drag bike has the same tires. I really liked them.
That seems to be a popular look there. Those bigger bikes with those wider tires. Doesn't Sam Blackbourne's bike have like similar cues to it as well?
Yeah. Yep. He's got some beautiful bikes and he's also got some big wheels. Eric Shingles also, he's even got bigger wheels than mine on his. He calls it Steamroller. But they were a little bit more rounded. So, I mean, it took me about a year to have those fenders made for that bike, which are carbon fiber. And, I'm like, you know what? I'm not changing it now. So that bike, we actually built it for a doubly run. And, of course, we wanted to hit some shows. And I don't know if it's going to be possible, but I'd like to get it to your show as well.
Well, look, I would love to not only have that bike there, but more importantly, candidly, is just to have you here. I'd love for you to see what we do out here. And as you know, we've welcomed you to be a part of the judging out here. I think it would be a nice little opportunity for us to get a little bit of a view from your perspective.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, there seem to be those bigger bikes, those bigger wheel, bigger tire bikes. Were those really popular, and did you really select that size because of the type of terrain that you ride in, or was it the look? Was it a little bit of both?
Well, it's funny. When we call it the Ugly Run, it's like our cannonball run. Honestly, there's only like two left-hand turns, and the rest are straightaways. So I really wasn't concerned about, I've track raced at the Thunderdrum and stuff like that. But we knew this bike was just made to go straight, so we kind of built it to do triple digits. I ended up using a 44 Magnum on it, which probably would take away a little bit on the top end, but it's probably in the high 80s probably at that Ugly Run.
Wow.
I still got some playing to do, but we got to be safe too, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. In fact, safety first. I recently saw something where there's a bunch of folks, I'm not sure if it was Michigan, out riding, and when you guys go out riding in the streets, it seems like it's anything from a mini bike to a full-size motorcycle to a three-wheeler to an ATV, and an unfortunate deal, somebody with no helmet pulls out in the wrong lane, head on another car, flips over, and it just, no helmet on, no shirt on. We still see a little bit of that there, and we try to do our best.
I see it daily at the store, and it's I don't want to say it's just the young people, but a lot of these new young guns, they just I get dirty looks when I have the gear on. They're like, hey, what do you got that on for? But we try to push it when we can, and unfortunately same way with motorcycles, right? It's like you just see somebody doesn't wear the gear until they have an accident, and then they decide they want to put the gear on, and it's just hard to persuade them.
When I was a little bit younger and a little bit dumber, I used to just dream of being able to ride a motorcycle without a helmet with your hair in the wind, and all those pictures and all those movies you see. I don't know if it was Easy Rider, but as it turns out now, we'll be the first nerd stepping up, because I know I wear gloves. I wear my D&E's jacket with the chest and the back protector and the elbow protector, because look, it's inevitable at some point I'm going to fall on my ass. I just don't want to get hurt too bad, because I'm really a pussy,
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
that's the thing with mini bikes too. They're not fine-tuned machines. So things do. I don't care who you are. Something's going to rattle apart or something's going to get loose, and especially if you don't do your maintenance on it. So it's bound to happen.
Every bike I've had, something's flown off of it at one point or the other. Hey, Eric,
right?
Let me ask you. You're obviously a big part of the mini bike scene nationally. You've got the store that's got some huge notoriety, not only in the state, but obviously all the neighboring states, as well as, through things like the internet, national and international. You've had some plans to revamp that website. And I think you were, at one point I first met you, talking about doing that. And now I've known you for like a year or two. And finally you got that new website up and going. That's got to be a relief for you, huh?
It's just, I wish I could say it was easy. I tried doing it all myself, and I was just, too much going on, either understaffed or just busy. Social media was always good to us. Believe it or not, just from that, we had some great national notoriety. But, the website finally is up and running. It's not perfect, but we just want to get as much stuff on there as possible. It's the worst thing in the world, right? I hate going to a website and you click on there and there's a bunch of empty links and stuff. So we got a lot of cool stuff on there, stuff that we make, stuff that we get, and we're a huge art distributor. So we got a bunch of that stuff on there. But we've always dealt with those guys for years. But every day we're adding more and more stuff, which is studzracing.com. We also have another website, Studz Powersports, but we don't have a lot of stuff on there, as far as parts and performance stuff. That's all on the Studz Racing site.
Great. And as I understood it, you had a special code for our Joe's Minibike Reunion podcast listeners that you'll open up and you'll make it available through the Labor Day holiday, which is this Sunday. Thank you, first of all, for making that available. And if you could, give folks an idea what that discount boils down to. Is it a 5, 10, 15% discount? And then what is the discount code for those folks that would like to order some parts from you, Eric?
Well, the discount code is Studz Fast, which is all caps, STUDZ, and then fast, all one word.
Okay.
And basically it's a 10% discount across the board. Probably doesn't sound like a whole lot, but on the performance parts, you're lucky probably to have a 15% margin. So some of those parts are pretty expensive. So especially if you're doing a complete build, it definitely will help save some coin. And that discount, we're just calling this our grand opening, being on your show tonight. So from tonight to midnight Sunday, people can take advantage of that coupon code.
Awesome. And that was Studz, STUDZ, all uppercase.
Correct.
It's going to be a discount code that's available through Sunday. Guys, if you're listening in, and there's a lot of places where you can buy products, and many of them are sponsors of our show, I've personally had a chance to not only experience working with Eric and the folks over at Studz, I can tell you from being there that he's got a group of guys working there and gals, and it's a family business as well. And you feel that when you go in there, everybody knows their deal. Whether someone's bringing in a lawnmower that hasn't worked in 50 years, or if someone wants to completely rebuild a custom bike, or maybe build one from scratch. And when you go to Eric's back room, I think I was there during a time where you may have recently got some F&B pipes. It wasn't like there was 3 or 4 pipes. It was like there was about 50 or 60. So your inventory's strong, your staff's strong and friendly, and it seems as if everybody that was coming in that store, you could see the smile on their face. It was like, when you're out and about and you finally either get to that part of the store where it's got the shit that you like it was always the toy store as a kid. But as an adult, I was watching when we did the little meet and greet at your place, when the people came in to Studz, they couldn't get to the desk to order quick enough. And that's got to be pretty cool too, isn't it, Eric? Where you're kind of the stop for folks to get that game face on.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. I was actually trying to find the picture when you were there. Holy cow, we had about 50 or 60 people around that parts counter. It was crazy.
We would have had more if Ed was with me.
For sure. Well, next time, right?
Yeah.
Get that out on the drone.
Eric, look, I hope that we can see you out here for Joe's Minibike Reunion on the 19th. We've got a little bit of room here, but what ends up happening is we get closer to the event, and I'm not bitching about it, but boxes start to come in, whether it's Pioneer Audio or whether it's the mats. In fact, I had to delay. We're giving these mats away, Eric, to each of the participants.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I used to have a much larger mat, but these are smaller, and it's got a place for your kickstand instead of it going into the hot cement, or in this case, the grass. And it's going to have the JMBR logo and Pioneer, and we're actually going to give these to each of the participants. They get to take them home as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to be bringing out some goodies for you to give away too at the show. Some Studz goodies.
What are you thinking about bringing?
I don't know. Probably lots of stickers and stuff like that. But we haven't decided totally yet. But probably something. I know you're going to have some bags that you give away, right? With each applicant. That
would be great. Those are the goodie bags.
Yeah. So some good stuff to throw in the goodie bags. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. You've always been generous. Thank you for supplying the tires. We just got the wheels redone for the Super Stalker Bears bike that Ed was painting today. We've had a lot of support from a lot of friends. Karen Krause put together the seat. We had some help from Toby McCaslin. He made a really cool check this out. A pull starter made out of wood.
Awesome.
With the Hearst logo on there. It's very, very light. And
I saw you post that today. That looks awesome.
it looks great. And he actually color painted the pull rope. So instead of it being white, it's white with blue and red, like a barbershop pole, in the spirit of the Super Stalker look. And there's a lot of little subtle things that Ed and I have been working on, just trying to make this bike something that Joe G. Bears is going to, well, obviously she's going to remember it for the rest of her life, but something that's really going to put a smile on her face, because despite the fact that her dad had this huge line of mini bikes, she never had one to call her own. So we're gonna be looking forward to the reveal, and you'll be a part of it on the 19th. Eric, one more time before you take off, for the folks listening, given that it's studracing.com and that discount code again that you were offering, could you please repeat that one more time?
Sure. Yeah, the website's Studz Racing with a Z. So studracing.com, and then the coupon code is Studz Fast, all caps, STUDZ FAST. All caps.
Eric, before you go, I want to ask you one question.
Sure.
What is it about the mini bikes? What is it? I mean, right now how old are you? Like you're in your mid-30s?
I wish you're good to me. I'm 48.
Wow, you look great. So at 48, and you do the car thing, you do the truck thing, you've done everything thing. What is it that still keeps you so interested in the mini bikes? Curious.
Oh God, it's probably we don't have enough time, but honestly, it's just addicting. You get on it, you feel. I've rode motorcycles before, but there's something about getting on the mini bikes, and there's so many flavors, so many different kinds, and that's part of it. The other part of it is just the camaraderie. You see people out there. It doesn't matter what color they are, or how tall they are, or how old they are. We get guys that are 80 and guys that are 10, like my son, and just everybody gets together and usually has a good time, and that's what I like about it. It's just it's a big family, really. It's the people, isn't it? Yeah.
And when you see, no matter what mini bike you look at, there's always something cool about it.
Oh, absolutely.
How about?
I had a request from some of my Detroit people that are coming out to your show.
What is it?
Well, I don't know if I can say this, but they just want to make sure that you've got
yes,
the Coke, Coke and the horrors lined up.
that sounds like Sam Blackburn now.
I can't mention any names.
Oh,
but,
yeah,
that was one of the requests.
Well, we'll work on it. How's that? Hey, Eric, do you want to give any shout outs before you take off?
Yeah, all those guys, man. God, we got so many guys, but the Blackburn family are awesome. The whole family gets out there and rides. Their youngest has been drag racing and riding all kinds of fancy bikes, and hopefully Sam can get his bike out there. Eric Swingle, all those guys in that group, Brad DeMoisey, Mike Camp, those are all guys that we hung out with at Ubley. The whole Let's Get It Racing team. There's a bunch of guys. Haven't seen Pizza lately. He's kind of into cars, but JB Auto, he was up at Ubley working on some crazy shifter cart that he put a 650 Polaris engine on it. Always tinkering on something.
How about my man Kelman Carisi?
Oh, Kelman, yeah, Kelman came out to our show. Kelman likes to have a good time for sure. Kelman, if you're out there, what's up? He's still got that Psycho Banana that he's riding.
I thought he was working on another bike too. I don't know if it was a customer's bike or his. How about Myron Bailey and his son?
Myron Bailey is kind of a lot of these guys that the police are giving us some issues riding, and especially in the city. So a lot of these guys are riding scooters, which we do sell a lot of scooter parts too. But Myron's been, he's been riding legally. I think he sold his mini bike, and he's been riding scooters. I haven't seen him in a minute. Well,
I haven't talked to him in a minute either. If you see him, tell him we said hi. Eric, thank you for everything. Again, thanks for the support with supplying the tires for the Bears bike as well. Thanks for all you do with the mini bike community. And we'll look forward to talking to you soon and maybe seeing you on October the 19th.
For sure. I can't wait to see you guys out in Cali.
Thanks, Eric. Talk to you soon, brother. Have a good night.
Right. See you, Eric.
You too. Bye-bye.
Hope you come out.
Guys.
He really is a nice guy.
Sounds like he's really nice.
He is. And honestly, I had no idea he was that old. Literally. He acts young, and you can tell he's all about having the fun. Hey, I want to take a second and recognize a few folks too. Obviously, shout out to Linda for all you do. Corona Irving, he was putting together a really nice custom bike, so I can't wait to see. Yeah, Corona, looking forward to seeing what you're bringing out. We talked earlier about Jake Moe and Ian, and kind of the awkwardness, Ed, that maybe comes with being a judge. And this year we've got some new judges, and we also have some judges coming back, like you, like Cliff, like Midgie. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Ian Cordova, Jake Moe, well, Ian's a former winner. Jake, ironically, could have probably won every year. And I don't know that he's ever won, but he's never been a big issue for him.
I don't think so. I don't think he has one.
Yeah, so I think, and I understand that a lot of the judges or former judges would have a little bit of an awkwardness if their bike won, right? Just because you're on the judging team. And easy for me to say, hey, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I had that problem when I won on my Bonanzas.
What is it?
You feel, I don't know, I just like think people, well, he's a judge, he knows all
It's
the
fixed,
judges.
right?
That's why, it's fixed.
And that's the part of the judging that I never got turned on to, because I thought, and what I told the judges, and we have 12 judges, that if you bring a bike, let's say that, let's just say that MDB, who's a judge, brings a badass drag bike. If that's the best drag bike at Joe's Minibike Reunion and it doesn't win, then the judges faulted. Now, if Charles is a judge, when his bike is being judged, Charles is not going to be judging it.
Right.
You would judge it, or Joe would judge it, or Cliff would judge it.
Right.
And I have enough confidence that these guys, and incidentally, if you're a woman and you like to judge, you're welcome to.
Vicky helped me one year.
I think Karen Krause would be great. You kidding me? She'd be like a walking encyclopedia, especially. So it's not a guy or a gal thing, but I have enough faith in my judges that if another judge brought in a badass chopper, let's just say, and that bike was the best chopper at Joe's Minibike Reunion, and he was a paid participant, that bike should win, giving zero shits whether he's a judge or not. So if anybody has a problem with that, obviously we'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. But the way that the judging is going to work this year, for those of you who have been coming to the show, we've tried a variety of different ways. We've tried it where you parked anywhere you want, and the judges went around and they judged you. Well, there were a few folks who had some concerns as to whether or not their bike was judged. And candidly, at the time, we may not have had the most efficient system to designate which bikes had been judged or not. So I'll take a little bit of a responsibility for it. Over the last couple of years, as we tried to adopt the judging to get to a place where maybe it was a little bit easier for both sides, we thought we would try to judge the bikes before you were placed. And that brought its own challenges for a variety of reasons. This year, we're going back to keeping it easy because it's a mini bike show. We're going to take the KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid. When you come in, and registration will open up at 7 a.m., and if you're pre-registered, there's a special line just for you. You'll get your goodie bag. You'll get your judging card. You'll be able to come in, take your photo behind the step and repeat wall, and then go put your bike on the designated mats that are already in place. And from 7 to 9 o'clock, you just mingle. You go have a cup of coffee with Ed. You go maybe get something at the food truck. You take a look at some of the stuff at the merchandise tent. Walk around, do whatever you like. Enjoy the park, enjoy your friends. And at 9 o'clock, our 12 judges are going to enter the arena. And likely 2 at a time, they have their designated sheets and they have their curriculum in terms of what your judging is going to be based around. And they will literally go to all of the bikes before noon and judge them. And your card, your registration card, will have a designated red sticker, which will allow you and us to know that you're judged. About 12 o'clock, we'll stop phase 1 of judging. By 12:30, it will be the last call. So if for whatever reasons we missed anybody from 9 to 12, we'll take them until 12:30. From 12:30 till about 1, it's phase 2, where our judges will tabulate all the scores. We'll find out who can't add. We'll make sure that if any bikes need another visual inspection, because we have a lot of close
ones, yeah.
You know, because you're a judge.
Yep.
So we've adopted the plus a half a point so that instead of everybody with a nice bike getting a 7 or an 8, your bike may just be a little bit more special so that 8.5 differentiates you from all those 8s. In a similar fashion, if you're kind of an 8, yet not too sure, you just stay at that 8. You don't get that extra half. For the drag class, there's some talk of extra credit, and this is just for the drag class, that if you put your bike on the dyno, and depending on what those results are, those could help you glean extra points in the drag racing class. Because the drag racing class, that's designed specifically for race bikes, and that dyno suited perfectly. So keep that in mind. No one has to go on the dyno, but for those folks looking to get a little bit more of an edge on the voting, if you're in the drag class, be sure to get on the dyno. I want to thank some of our other listeners that have been a big part of the show over the years. There's all of our guys from the Arizona Minibike Riders. Looking to see my John Benet Ramsey and Joe and maybe Nick. Nick's maybe coming out. That would be cool to see him. Dallas and some others. And a lot of those guys bring their families, so we're looking forward to seeing you all. I mentioned the judges. Let me announce the team. It's Cliff Judd, yours truly, Evil Ed, MDB, Mini Drag Bike, Charles, Justin Eichler, Joe Petralia, Bill Brousseau, Jonah McCaslin, Jake Boyd, Jay Padilla, and I'm also getting some help with the Hondas and the Mini Motos and the scooters. And I have my buddy Bing Flores and Dante Villasenor from the Honda Grom lifestyle scene. I ride with all those guys on Friday night. Them and George, Mr. Honda. You may remember George from the events. He's got the little black mustache and the big Honda shirt. He's an expert when it comes to Hondas. So those guys will specialize in our Z50s, our CT70s, all the way up to the Honda Groms and the Honda Monkeys, as well as the Z125 Pros and that whole... The way that it works is that the Mini Motos are anything that shifts. The Twist and Goes, those are the scooters. Those are the two classes. If you'd like to see the classes and maybe try to figure out where you fit in, go to joesminibikereunion.com, and underneath the event information and under the schedule, it'll not only give you the schedule that I just reviewed with you, but it'll also give you the definition of each of the classes. $5 coupons off at Campbell Automotive. Thanks to all of our judges. While you're there, the judges will have a badge on. We have these special badges, Ed. You may even have yours from last year. While your bikes are being judged, leave the judges alone. Really. They want to see the bike. They only have a few minutes to judge the bike. Now, during the second phase or after they've judged the bike, if you want to talk to them, by all means, but please don't bother the judges while they're judging to tell them that how tough it was to find the part or that you hand built the clutch cover. I don't want to minimize any of that. There's just not that opportunity and there's not that time that they have while they're judging. Now, after the judging, we want to know everything. In fact, that's what the show's about, to tell folks what you did to your bike and answer questions about it. Just not during the judging, okay? All right. So I'm going to get to the guy who's making a lot of waves, a lot of big waves in a small way. Evan Ruble. Evan is, he's a 714 area code, and I would have wished we could have had him in studio, but he's had some things going on, good and bad. The good being that he just got married. But Evan's going to come on the show after the break and talk a little bit about his line of these micro minis. And, you know, I've got a couple of them, and I just like everything about them. They're not the easiest to ride, nor are they the easiest to build. In fact, just about everything you've got to do with these bikes, for some reason, you have to make the part or find somebody who's already done it. But we're going to talk a little bit about what this micro mini bike craze, why it's happening, and why Evan decided to get into it full bore. Incidentally, for those of you that are micro mini bike enthusiasts, in fact, I think Karen Krause just got hers done. We have a class. We have a micro class this year specifically for that. So we're going to get Evan on the second half. Shout outs. Your buddy Edwin Murdo's been checking out a lot of the photos.
Okay. Yep.
Hopefully you have a chance to see Edwin at the upcoming show.
Yeah, I hope he shows up.
Yeah. I mentioned all the Honda Grom lifestyle riders that I typically go out with. Bing and Dante, Johnny, Joe, Lorenzo Tan, all the guys from Steady Garage. Let's give a shout out to Alan Bryan, Levi LeMayer, My buddy Chance Durrence. Chance I met, he was one of the SEMA Young Guns in St. Paul. He had a badass little MR2. We'll see him out in Vegas. He was one of the Young Gun winners. Larry Lawrence, John Lamas, Randy Keats, Brad DeMoisey. Brad also in the event business, and now it seems like he's maybe getting into the part business. He's got, I think he built a modified head for these little smaller 3.5 horsepower 79cc Predators that are on these little micros. Mm-hmm. So that's cool, seeing him kind of stretch out his little footprint there. Dazel Rankin, Jimmy Gorman, my buddy Brian Amatsu, Jim McNear, locals Rick Chu and Tom Hay, big guys out here in La Crescenta, not only in the motorcycle, but also the car world. Mikey and Ira, I look forward to seeing you guys this weekend. Corey, Gail, and Jerry, we'll see you guys out here hopefully soon. James Griffith, James, the guy that I bought my, where is it? There it is. My Briggs 7-horse. Adam Wolf, Nick Herbert. I want to thank Nick for helping me out with some of the West Bend questions I had, and I want to thank Justin Eichler for hooking me up with Frank Moore. I got a little, this is my first West Bend, and it looks like I'm going to keep it in the micro Temecula Bob setup that I've got going there. But Justin turned me on to Frank Moore. Frank Moore is out of Ohio, and just as Justin claimed, he really was on top of his game when it comes to West Bends. He can be reached at a pretty odd email address. It's Pooh, like Winnie the Pooh, Pooh Ruth, POOHRUTH at AOL.com. That's the email address for Frank Moore in Ohio. Look, I paid $650 for a complete, rebuilt, modified West Bend 700. And he had it done in a week. He was easy to deal with. He was the nicest guy. And I don't know that I would ever buy a West Bend from anybody else besides him. I saw another West Bend on eBay, and it looked really nice, and the price was a little bit lower, but you just didn't know.
Right.
I don't know about you. I'd rather spend the extra $100, right, Ed, and get it from somebody you know?
Mm-hmm.
So thanks, Nick, for the help, and thanks, Frank Moore, for the help, and Justin, thanks for hooking me up. We're going to take a quick little time out, and when we come back, we're going to get Evan Ruble on the line. For those of you who may have experienced a little bit of technical difficulty, well, that's the podcast world. When we come back, in fact, let's do it now. Here's a quick little view on the progress of the parts. Now, Ed, this is one of the wheels. You're a pro. Take a look at that. Pretty nice work, huh?
Yeah, I seen it earlier. It looks nice.
You were concerned about the fenders.
Yeah.
How'd those come out?
They came out nice.
Right?
Those are the fenders I supplied for
yes,
the bike.
Ed supplied these fenders, which, again, try to find them, right? Some of the other chrome work, although this is still in
looks
package.
good so far.
Don't you think? This is the seat that Karen Kraus put together for us. Awesome job. That red, white, and blue patriotic look.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. And on that Super Stalker, there's that little area, that little frame that you fixed for a license plate. So we've got a special license plate that's coming up on the Barris bike. And then Toby McCaslin. Now, ironically, Toby and his family used to visit the Barrises. So Jonah, Toby's brother, and Toby as well have been participants at the Minibike show. And when they heard about the Barris deal, they wanted to be a part of it any way, shape they could. So I said, hey, look, Evil Ed's driving the boat, but we need some help on some other parts. This is an example. I said, hey, we really want to replicate a Hurst shifter, but those big metal shifters, you can't. They're heavier than the engine, right?
You can't use one.
And they clank on the front of the engine. So I said, hey, look, can you make it out of wood, a light wood, and replicate the Hurst shifter? And this is what you have here. And unlike the other Hurst shifters where the logo is facing up, we reversed it so that when it's sitting into the recoil, it's spelled out correctly. And look at the pull rope. He carried through not only the clean white rope, but painted it blue and red like a barbershop pole in the spirit of this bike. So, Toby, thanks for these little innuendos and these little special parts of the build, because I think that's really what's going to differentiate it. Now, you and I talked about maybe enlisting Frank from F&B on a pipe. Mm-hmm. So, Frank, we may be reaching out to you. There's a picture of it looks like a modified, a little 90 angle and that old school Tecumseh muffler head.
Yeah, that's what we have now.
So we'll find something and we'll chrome it up. But the progress of the bike is pretty close. We have one major concern that I think even that problem's eliminated, Ed, and that came with the clutch cover. I thought we were literally going to have to either make one or have Jake make one or Toby make one. But it turns out that Greg Dahlia from the East Coast, who's a big Barris fan, knows a guy that has the specs and is working on making that clutch cover for us.
Good.
Now, there were two types of super stockers, right? And each of those had a different clutch cover. This was that full, flat, straight, mass, huge chrome.
With all the decals on it.
And with all the decals, right? Which we're also working on. And, you know, I've seen some other builds where you could tell they gave up because they couldn't find one. They just put on like a regular square clutch cover. And, you don't miss it. But I think in the spirit of what we're trying to do and who we're giving the bike to, Joe
Right.
G. Barris, that we got to make everything happen as close to that bike as we possibly can. And it hasn't been easy, but it hasn't been hard. And we go through, it seems like we picked up that bike when? When did we get that bike? January. Right?
7, 8 months ago.
Can you believe it? And remember at the time, it's like, shit, we got more than enough time.
Yeah.
And I think we immediately got it and stripped it. And then you've had the frame.
Yeah.
I've been getting some parts. Like I just got some of the chrome stuff done because I was worrying about time. Karen got the seat done like in no time. But now it's game on. We've got like a month and a couple of weeks to get it done. For those of you who have expressed an interest in either helping us with the parts or helping with the assembly, I think we're good. But keep out there in case you want to come over. We're going to get all of our parts laid out and assemble all this bike. He's going to time it, one of those elapsed time videos, so that everybody can see what we've done throughout the whole build. Really excited. Not as nervous, but kind of nervous, just because you will be until it's done, like all the other ones. This one's really special. It's the Barris Super Stocker. It'll be revealed at noon at the upcoming Joe's Minibike Reunion on October the 19th, brought to you by Pioneer. We're going to take a quick little break, folks, and we'll be back with Evan and Ruble. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you in a minute.
New from the makers of legendary Brake Clean, the Shop Size Brake Clean Pro Series. The larger Pro Size can has 50% more of the brake clean you've trusted for over 47 years. Also available in 3 non-chlorinated formulas.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Joe's Minibike Reunion Podcast. I'm here with the evil one. Pretty cool guy, Eric.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Have you met him?
No.
Yeah, so if he comes out, everybody, I think, seems like they know him because he's always on Facebook. He's always on social media, and he's been on the scene for a long, long time. Kind of interesting to hear about because I haven't heard too much from Myron Bailey. I was wondering what he was up to.
Yeah, he's riding the scooters.
You know? Well, maybe he's just taking a break, right? Like everybody talks about. Well, good to talk to you, Eric. Thanks for the Cocor pimp for Sam. Although we weren't supposed to mention that, right? Hey, we were talking earlier about the different, I guess the event activities, particularly the judging and some of the criteria. And the folks up at NorCal Minibikes had some questions about the classes, which, as I mentioned, they're all on joesminibikereunion.com under the event information. There's a schedule of events, and then right below that, there's a description of all the classes. But we'll get into those a little bit specifically in terms of what classes are available and what their classes are suited for in terms of the bike. But first, we're going to jump on a call. We're going to talk to Evan Ruble with RCF. And Evan, who I will have hopefully in the studio at some point, because he's a California guy. We had a video that Evan sent, which showed folks enjoying his new little micros. If you want to find out how to buy one, we'll find out why. Hey, Evan, it's Joe and Ed from Joe's Minibike Reunion. What's happening, brother?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
What's happening?
Joe, how you doing?
We're doing okay. It was a busy day, and we're having a great little evening. Thanks for your patience. Typical podcast stuff. Things got a little bit late.
No problem.
Evan, congratulations on the recent wedding. I saw a photo there. Looks like you got the better end of the deal there.
I definitely got a good one, and I've been with her for quite some time, and we have some beautiful children, and it was long overdue, so I couldn't be happier.
And our condolences as well, because I know that sometimes life just works that way, where it could be the best moment of your life one day and unfortunately the worst the next day. So condolences to your mom, and I know that that's probably been a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for you as you've dealt with things over the last couple of weeks, huh?
Yeah, it's just one of those curveballs that life throws at you. You got to kind of roll with the punches, and I know that she wouldn't want me self-destructing or giving up on what my goals are, because of her loss. So needless to say, the wedding was a bit of a bittersweet event, but it was probably no better time than to have, friends and family who love us around for support.
Great.
And it turned out to be a really nice event. So
good. And it seems as if she should be pretty happy based on what I can see is happening with your business, RCF, and this growing popularity with these micro mini bikes. And I guess that's how I'd like to begin is, what is it that got you so, I guess, hooked to the point where you wanted to actually make them and manufacture them and commit so much of your business now focused on selling these micro bikes? What is it about the micros?
Well, let me give you a quick backstory on my interest in the mini bikes in the first place. My father and his brother and my grandfather all grew up, well, not my grandfather, but they all rode Powells.
Sure.
My dad and his uncle all rode Powells, and they all grew up in Anaheim. And this is before any homes were even in the Brea Hills. And I've got old reel-to-reel footage of them riding Powells around in the hills of Brea before there was any homes up there.
Wow.
So I spent many summers doing circles in the backyard at my grandparents' house in Anaheim on his Model A Powell that I still own to this day.
Wow, how cool.
So that really struck the passion, and in my elementary school library I came across the Minibike Challenge book. And I don't know if you've seen that book, but it's a really neat old vintage mini bike book. And I think I kept it a whole summer one year. But as far as the micros are concerned, I've always took a liking to the smaller tire mini bikes for some reason. I felt like it was kind of the epitome of the mini.
The little 4 inches?
Yeah, the little 4-inch tires.
Sure.
To me, that was a mini bike. I love the Powells and their mini bikes too, but as a kid, I always was always looking at the other ones that had the smaller tires and stuff.
Because they seem manageable for a little person, right? It's like, yeah, I can handle that.
Yeah, and they are a mini bike. I mean, they're mini, and the Powell is kind of more of a bike that's built for, an adult. So I always took a liking to those and never had them as a kid. And I always liked the Tom Thumbs,
sure.
And I own the Popular Mechanics, issue that has the build in it. And I've always liked the Little Indians. So I've always liked the frames that were on the smaller side of things. And so having kids of my own, I got to think, well, I'm going to design and build, something that's kind of, there's similarities between my frame and there's certain similarities to the Little Indian. There's certain similarities to the Tom Thumb, but it's still a design all on its own. And my whole idea was to just keep it as small as possible and just see what I could do and just keep it as small as possible. And it just, I originally built one out of 3/4 tubing just for my son, and posted some pictures. This was back in 2016 on Facebook, and people just took a liking to it. And Karen Krause was actually the first one to pull the trigger on one and said, "I got to have one. I'll pay you for it in full. Get it to me whenever you can. I'm not in a rush." So she really kind of opened the door for me to get something going, and it sparked more interest, and she got a few more people that she knew in the community to take an interest in them, and I just thought it was the greatest thing. And
let me ask you, were you how did you begin to acquire the skills to do the pipe bending and the welding and all that? Where does all that come from?
I'm a professional fabricator by trade for the last 23 years. I started right out of high school doing working for my girlfriend's dad at the time, building Harley gas tanks for Japanese motorcycles. A little company he had called Fat Bob,
okay,
or Fat Boy Tank, and he was working out of his garage. And then I just always wanted to weld. I remember as a kid looking in the J.C. Whitney catalog at welders and stuff, and just always wanting to learn how to weld. So I've been welding ever since I got out of high school and doing fabrication. I've had over 10 years in the hot rod and race car industry. I've been involved in manufacturing for many years, high production stuff. So I've got the experience with, evolving production. Sure. And speeding up the process. I mean, my frames are a constant evolution, as anybody can see that's purchased an earlier model versus what I've got now. I mean, they're constantly evolving. It's really no different than, bigger companies and technology and things like that. You're constantly trying to evolve your product to accommodate more and more customers.
One of your recent changes and upgrades had to do with the slots for the engine to bolt on. In addition to a couple other things, what are some of the more current features of the RCF frames that maybe are available now that weren't available in the first run, so to speak?
The biggest one is the slotting for for use of the 79cc Predator engine minus the mounting plate that they give you. So basically, it bolts directly to the block. And I mean, your clearance is minimal as it is. So, but I made the slots. I know a lot of times with builders, and you probably talked to other builders that have run into this too. With all the variations of rear wheel setups and rear sprocket setups, you start slotting stuff front to back, especially in a little frame like that where you really don't have the front to back movement on the motor to be able to adjust the chain. You're locking yourself into a side-to-side alignment area, a zone that may not work for everybody. So I decided to do the slots side-to-side rather than front to back, and with the intention of a person running a tensioner to keep the tension on the chain. That way it would accommodate anybody's chain alignment that they need.
And you're also pretty confident that most of the power plants on your bikes are going to be that 79cc Predator, right?
That seems to be the most popular vote.
Yeah.
That, and then I've had a lot of requests for a 212 bike, which is also in the works, which is a Micro XL that I'm in the works of developing right now. But yeah, the Predator engine seems to be, I always grew up with messing with flatheads and stuff like that, but a 3 horsepower flathead, you still need 11.5 inches clearance, and it just wasn't small enough for my taste for what I was trying to accomplish with this particular bike.
Sure.
And I actually kind of lucked out even having enough room for the Predator 79cc, because I built it with the intention of running a vintage style 2-stroke or a smaller 2-stroke engine. And a friend of mine just happened to say, "Hey, I got one of these 79s open box. Let me bring it by and just see if it fits in that frame." I said, "Sure, bring it on by." And he brought it by, and I mean, it was a game changer for me.
Good for you.
It seems like once that went right in there, everybody was all over him.
And when was that, Evan? Just to get a timeline.
Oh, that was back in. That was probably still back in 2017. I've done quite a bit of moving around, so I took a sabbatical from the building for a while, just because I wasn't set up to do so anywhere where I was landing.
Sure.
And I finally had enough of it and said, you know what, to heck with that. I'm going to set up and I'm going to utilize the space I got. Even if I'm melting in the Arizona heat in a little section of my garage, I'm going to get it done, because it's a passion of mine, and it's something I really enjoy doing, and I really want to get the name out there and get the brand established, and I want people to know what RCF is, and recognize my products. And the thing that I really enjoy about it is that people, in their 50s buy these frames, and people buy them for their kids that are 4 and 5 years old, and other people buy them to run around the pits. I mean, so it's a pretty versatile frame that is appealing to a wide market.
Let me ask you, do you think that, because like I'm 60 and I'll be 61 probably by the time I get my bike from you. Well,
I don't know when you turn 61, but
well, maybe I'll have it before that. But I want it for the uniqueness and for the kind of the wow factor. I've seen the photos of me riding my Temecula Bob Micro, and it's not a pretty sight. My legs are chicken out to the side, and my arms are way too tight, and my head's. Now, your bike, particularly the front flared forward a la little Mindian, that setup that you have, I really like that.
You're talking about the upper rails?
Yeah, where they kind of bend away from you. I like the look. I'm probably, in fact, I have a 79cc in my current Micro. I'm looking at a West Bend that I had in another small one, and Ed brought out, Ed's here for 2 seconds, realizing that I'm probably trying to stick too big of a wheel on there. And there's also a situation where I thought it could probably go from the clutch to the rear sprocket, but I'm definitely going to have to go with a jack shaft setup on this. And that was trying to use a West Bend 700. So I'm still kind of finding my ways around. I think I fell into, and others may do the same, where you think because it's so small that it's going to be easier. That's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, and it's tough, because people will get pricing, and I think they're expecting that because it's a foot or two less of tubing that it's going to be a substantial price difference. But really, it takes just as much work and just as much effort to build a frame, that's slightly, quite a bit smaller, and it takes the same amount of parts to put a complete bike together.
Yeah, plus
as it does for a full-size bike.
And I would also look at it like I just I could buy a full-size Corona 6-pack for $6.99. I could buy the little small Coronitas that
Right.
are like a third or maybe 2/3 of the size. And if it's not the same, it's a little bit more money.
Right. Right.
So
It's definitely a novelty. It's somewhat of a
yes,
novelty.
yes,
It's definitely a novelty piece. It's not unrideable. I mean, I've got one of the bikes I sent you. Guy by the name of Ryan Courts did a beautiful job building a little teal colored one.
I saw that one.
And he
put it for sale, didn't he?
He said he was about 6'2", and he was riding that thing around on a video.
Saw that too.
But people don't realize too. I can accommodate. If the traditional style bar doesn't work for somebody that's a little bit taller, I've got different fork tree designs that will accommodate a bar clamp and allow you to run an oversized bar, an ape hanger or whatever.
Nice.
You wish,
That would be that's good to know, and that would be cool to see actually.
I mean, my whole thing is I always tell people you're not just buying a frame because I'm passionate about this stuff, and I'm not in it just to sell frames. I'm in it to help people get them built too. So when somebody buys a frame from me, I'm willing to assist through the whole build however I can.
How nice. Make yourself available for tech related questions or
absolutely. And I think anybody you talk to would agree that, if they send me a message about, hey, what's the axle bolt size, or can I get a pattern of the new whole layout for the, engine slots, or, do you make a sprocket for this, or can you do this?
Or what size wheel or what size tire works best. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I've got stuff going on too, but I always try to get right back to people and try to respond as quickly as I can and be as helpful as possible. Yeah,
that's the customer service part of it, right, Evan?
Yeah, I think that's a big, important part that a lot of people forget. And I want people dealing with me to feel that they got a good service out of it as well.
Well, you definitely have established yourself and your reputation as being a solid guy. Obviously, you're passionate about it. It's not as if this is going to turn you into a millionaire anytime soon.
No. No.
And how is this working out now with the growth of RCF? Are you still doing this in addition to your quote unquote regular job?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I had my regular job, but we, when my mother became ill, she ended up moving in with us, and we started, my wife and I started caring for her, which my wife is an absolute saint, has the maternal instinct. She's a nurturer.
What's her name?
Amber.
Hi, Amber.
Amber, she's watching, and it'll show up as Amber Bus, but it's soon to change to, it's going to be Amber Ruble now.
Sounds nice. It's got a nice ring to it.
But so it was kind of, I hate to say that it was a good opportunity for me, but it was the timing worked out where I was able to take the plunge and resign from my full-time job and go after this thing full speed and still be able to make the time to care for my mom, in her final days.
How nice. Yeah.
Which was very important. She had a lot of appointments to get to and different things like that. And the care became pretty tedious. And it was just an opportunity. I was fortunate enough to have, I think Brad Tomosi and a number of those guys, he put together a group order from Michigan and had 14 frames sold that shipped out on a pallet to Michigan. So I had, 30 frames on order and
nice.
So it just worked out to where I could be here doing what I needed to do and care for her and be there for her at the same time. And so now that, that she's passed, I'm slowly getting back into where, obviously takes a little time after you lose somebody like that, but
without a doubt,
and I've always kept real open communication with anybody who's ordered a frame and let them know what's going on, and everybody seems to be pretty understanding about what's been going on. And but I'm hoping to just just go after it full speed ahead and really dig into it this year. At the end of this year, early next year, get my get a website up and running and really further develop some product and I like to provide some product for people that somebody wants to run a certain wheel but they don't make a sprocket adapter for it or things like that, things that aren't just readily available for folks, but people may be more apt to run a certain type of wheel or sprocket if I could produce a component that was affordable and offer it.
Yeah, that's that extra effort that I think not only is appreciated, but it's almost mandatory when you're a manufacturer in the beginning. Hey, before I let you go, I need a couple of things that I just need to get across for some of the folks that have expressed an interest. Since last night when I announced and teased the folks that you would be on, I was able to get some photos and some videos from you that we've since used on the Facebook page, and we've kind of teased throughout the podcast. The big question that I'll let you answer is, where can I buy these bikes? How much does it cost? And what's the wait time? Can you maybe review those items with some of the listeners?
I have there's an RCF Facebook page.
Okay.
And then there's also an RCF micro minibike group page that is a page designed for enthusiasts and owners of the RCF micro minibike.
I'm a member.
Where they can go on and bounce questions off each other and bounce different ideas off each other. They can also email me direct, and it's just my name, Evan Ruble at yahoo.com.
Great.
And that's EVANRUBLE at yahoo.com. And they can get a hold of me that way.
What about pricing?
Pricing is the frame and fork. So you get a frame, fork, bronze, flange bronze steering bushings, grade 8, 5/8 bolt, and fork nut for $225 plus shipping.
What's shipping on an average? You've sent these out enough. Is it $100? Is it?
Shipping is about $50.
Oh, great. Okay, so for under $300, you pretty much have one at your door.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the other benefit of it being so. There's where the savings come in from it being so small.
There you go.
The shipping, because
good point.
I've built full size frames. I've got a frame out there that I built for somebody, and they ended up not wanting it, and I've put it up for sale for a very affordable price. But it's shipping. Get into those bigger frames, and shipping ends up costing as much as the frame. So I've got one set size box that these go in.
Do you have a preferred carrier that you use?
I just go standard USPS.
Okay, so
it's proven to be pretty dependable, and
great.
And the pricing seems to be pretty fair. And I don't take a huge if shipping is $62 or something, I may
maybe stretch you to 65?
65 or something, you know what I mean? And I'll pay for I'm paying for the box. I'm not charging extra to put it in the box and take it to the post office. I'm not trying to nickel and dime people to death, I'm trying
and I don't think anybody gets that impression. It comes across very clearly, Evan. We were joking earlier today. I was telling Ed about how it gets a little pressurized as we get closer to the event, and you've got T-shirts and hats and trophies and all these things you're doing. And as Emmanuel has helped us with the website, I would sell my hats for $20, and they cost me $16. By the time I paid to the UPS guy to ship it somewhere, it was another $6. So I was like losing $1 on all of it. So. The fact that your stuff is easy to ship in terms of its size, and they can get into it for $300. What do they buy? 79 cc Harbor Freight engine for under $100. You buy some hardware, a clutch, a chain. You really could almost be rolling down the road $500-600. Is that kind of a close estimate?
Yeah, that's probably a realistic number. Now, obviously, if somebody asked me to build them a complete turnkey bike, that's painted and upholstered and all that stuff, it's going to be priced more than that because I've got to get something
Sure.
for my labor and my time and all that. But that's why I honestly prefer to just sell the frames and the individual components, because I really get a kick out of seeing people's excitement over these frames and seeing where people go with creativity and seeing what kind of different things people come up with. And I get a lot of enjoyment. For me, that's a lot of the satisfaction in doing it, is watching people get such a kick out of these things.
Well, they just look like a blast just by looking at them. You can tell by the customers that you've already served and the fun that they're having. And I see all of them suggest that they're buying them for their kids, and that's a lie.
Well, they may tell the wife that.
Yeah. Well, look, Evan, thank you for making some time for us tonight. We hope that it cools down over there in Arizona. We hope that we get to see you at the upcoming Joe's Minibike Reunion. And then hopefully, as you continue to prosper and grow, have you as one of our exhibitors, or who knows, maybe there'll be a day we're talking about giving away an RCF micro mini bike at an upcoming Joe's Minibike Reunion. Folks, if you want to find out how you can have one of those little RCF micros in your shop, check him out. He's given a website. We've got a micro Facebook page. You can catch him on email, Evan Ruble at yahoo.com. Evan, thanks for spending some time with us. Before we let you go, do you have any parting words or any shout outs that you want to give?
No, I just want to thank everybody that's got in contact with me and purchased anything from me, and just thank you for the support, and I really appreciate everything and the acceptance into the community with my product has been outstanding. So
is your work, Evan.
You guys having me on the show.
Yeah, it's been great. You deserve what you get, good or bad. So congratulations to you in order. I'll look forward to talking to you soon, and I look hopefully to seeing you October the 19th at the Minibike Show.
That is the plan, to get out there. So
Evan, congrats again on the wedding, and again our condolences on the loss of your mom. Use it as a motivator. I'm sure she's looking down at you, and she's happy and proud of you. So congratulations on that.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you so much.
There you have it. Evan Ruble with RCF Micros. Yeah, I ordered one. He mentioned that he had some newer ones coming with drilled slots. It's like great, because I really didn't want to deal with any of that stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting it. They're kind of affordable. They're kind of cool. So if you're into those types of things, check them out. Evan Ruble at RCF. All right. So our friends at NorCal Mini Bikes had sent in a comment. In fact, those of you who would like to there's a few more minutes left in the podcast. Go right ahead. But he was asking about the classes. As I've stated earlier, the classes are all available on the website, joesminibikereunion.com. Just go underneath the event info. But for those of you who, for whatever reason, may not have an interest on going to the website or don't deal with computers, I don't know how you'd be listening, but the drag classes, bikes built specifically for racing. Ed, you helped us define these two, and they're kind of interesting, the restored versus the survivor. Mm-hmm. You helped me with that. I think your version of the restored was bikes most accurately restored to its original condition from the manufacturer, right? Mm-hmm. Differentiating between the survivor, which is the one that still accurately reflected that original look, but it also had shown and withstood time, right? Father Time. Yes. So for those of you who are trying to distinguish between the two, that's the difference. The rat bike category, another one that kind of picked up over the years. That's the bike that reflects the popular rat rod style, and that's creativity. That's attention to the theme. That's the rusted look. Everybody should know what the rat bike look is. Under construction, that's the bike that's most impressive in its current state of assembly in the midst of the fact that it's not been finally completed. So if you have a bike where maybe it's just 60%, like about half of the bikes around here, don't not show your bike.
Bring it.
Because not only are you eligible for all the prizes where you can take home an F&B roller or take home a slew of other products that we're giving away from Pioneer and Coker Tire and Toyo Tire and GTS. Bring it. And people will be motivated.
You know what kind of work you're doing on it and how things are going.
Just as you came over and gave me a couple of heads up, that's the beauty of bringing your bike to the show, because you'll get a guy say, hey, you know what I did? I noticed that you haven't quite finished your front suspension. You know what would work good on that?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of that you get to glean if you check that out, if you bring your bike. So, hey, just because it's not finished doesn't mean there's not a home for it. The chopper class. Embarrassingly, and I'm a big chopper fan, we didn't have a ton of choppers.
No, not really.
Yeah, so I think that put a little word out. I've got my Bonanza chopper back there, and I've got Frankenstein, and actually I had 2 of the Bonanza choppers, but I love those bikes just for the look alone. So I'm expecting and I'm predicting a much more active chopper class, and those are the bikes that are extended front ends and it's kind of have that lower style stance. If you don't know what a chopper is, don't come to the show. Long distance award. That's the guy who's a registered participant, which means he paid his $30, and it's the guy who traveled the furthest to attend the event. Now, I need some help. Let's just say that a guy like Neil, remember Neil Copeman?
Yeah, he came from Canada.
Yeah, he did. So Neil flew and drove, right? I think he flew to Vegas and drove, or he did something.
Something like that.
So he was, without a doubt, a long-distance winner. If you come just as a spectator, which means that you don't bring a bike, you don't really qualify. You have to have a bike. So we're looking for folks, and we've had some folks from Washington. I know that we have folks from Arizona. It looks as if we may have some folks from Michigan. Hell, there was a guy who came from New York who didn't have a bike who said he was coming back with some bikes. So whoever comes the longest distance, we've got a trophy for you. Based specifically on bringing Eric from Studz into the judging and his bike, we created a custom class because out of all the classes that I had, I really didn't have one that was for bikes that were like his Harrison, but had been stretched or modified to the point you would never recognize what it was originally. But it started as a Harrison. Those bikes, customs, right? Just like custom cars.
Right.
So we've got a custom class. I'm out riding with my guys on Friday nights, and I saw Daryl, who is moved to Arizona, but still a part of the game, and Daryl Smith, and I saw a couple other guys out there, and they're into not only the Groms, but they're into these
The motorized
bikes, the 4-cycle bikes.
Yeah.
So they asked me if I had a class, and I said no. So we are. And I asked those guys that they would help judge, and whether we have, hey, all I need is 2, but if we can start to get some of those bikes to come out, Ed, the engineering and the workmanship on those bikes, even a guy like you would be proud to see what they're doing. And it is kind of amazing. Honda Vintage. Just to be clear, the Honda Vintage are the Z50s, the CT70s, and the QA50s for the most part. Okay? That's the Honda Vintage. The Groms and the Monkeys, those are all under the Mini Moto. Anything where you shift the gear, whether it's a Grom or a Monkey or a Z125 Pro Kawasaki, anything that shifts is a Mini Moto. If you have a scooter is a twist and go, no shifting. So that's a Ruckus. That's a Vespa. That's a Vino. Those are your twist and goes. We have a class for scooters as well as Mini Motos. We'll have independent winners for those categories. So within Mini Moto, we'll have the best Grom. We'll have the best Z Pro 125. We'll have the best Monkey. For the scooters, we'll have the best Ruckus. We'll have the best Vino. We'll have the best Vespa, as an example. We had a couple bikes show up last year where none of us knew what it was. So that's the best WTF. And that's more of an award. E and I were talking about that. So if you got something really wild and one-off, that's going to go in its own little unique category. Subsequently, you may have a bike that has more than 2 wheels. Maybe it's a 3-wheeler, like those Dune cycles, which seem to be coming up now. Rupp made them and everybody else. Or let's just say that you have something that's got, 4 wheels. Bring it on. A go-kart. Bring that out. We got a place for you. We got a category for you as well. I will be giving away with the judges 10 Outstanding Achievement Awards. And Ed, you know what we decided to do? We used to have the first place and then the second runner-up and the first runner-up, and essentially it was like first, second, third.
Right.
Forget it. No one wants first runner-up. You watch these guys, you give them the trophy, they want to throw it out. It's like everybody wants to win. So in the spirit of encouraging that, 1 trophy per class. However, there will be some bikes that didn't win like the best in their category, but they're still really, really good bikes. those bikes qualify for Outstanding Achievement Awards. So we'll have 10 of those. As we try to continue to bring in youth and young folks into the hobby, and we see an increasingly number of them each and every year, we have 6 Young Guns, and those are trophies awarded to kids, 15 years and younger, that actually worked on and played a role in one of the bikes that was on display. Greg, who was the winner with his little, I think it was his little Rutman, the little ugly Rutman, or I'm not sure if it was an ugly or not, the little red one. He's been on our show. His sons, I watched them when they were this big. Now they're this big. They're an example of a young gun. Aaron, Munda, East's son, into bikes. So all those younger folks that are in the scene or want to be more part of the scene, we've got awards for you. Ed, again, you've got your award. Ed's going to have his own award that he picks, and that'll be whatever bike he wants because it's Ed's award. I've got an award called the Joey that I use myself because I fall in love with just about all these bikes that I walk around and see, but there's always one that I wish I owned, and that's typically who I give it to. And then finally, there is no best of show. At Joe's Minibike Reunion, it's the People's Choice. And it's the Brad Elzey's People's Choice Award. It was named after Brad Elzey, who is a longstanding resident of the community here in La Crescenta, whose life was tragically taken in a motorcycle accident a few years ago. Well, his family and his sons, many of them who helped him with his builds, they continue to be a part of the show. He'll always be the name on the People's Choice. And essentially what we do is we take all the winners from all these classes that I've mentioned, the drag class, the restored class, the 4-stroke class, any class winners, they all come up. And for those of you who've been at the show before, it's all based on applause. And we've got a little app which measures the applause. So if you've got friends and they're into mini bikes, have them come. It's free as a spectator. They can support you and help you win. But it's all, the judges are even out of it at that point. All the judges do is bring up the winners of each class, and then those that are in the audience, your peers, your friends, other participants, spectators, their round of applause for your bike ultimately will decide the winner. I want to give out a Joe's Minibike Reunion hat and t-shirt. We'll get Evil Ed to autograph it, and we're going to send it out to our friends over at NorCal Minibike who sent in the question about the classes. Eve, get a chance to look in your schedule. Have any idea what our next podcast date could be? Okay, we'll let Eve take a look at that. I want to give a special shout out to Rafa over at GTS Hobbies for being the co-sponsor of the dyno this year. Thank you, Rafa, for the continued support as always. Coker Tire will be giving away, typically they give away a gift certificate, Ed, and that'll go to the folks who win the long distance award. I want to thank Marla Moore. Marla was just recently inducted into the SEMA Hall of Fame, and I get to induct her in October. Look forward to seeing her then. And she's also on the cover of the August issue of SEMA News. So congratulations to Marla. I want to give a shout out to Stan from Toyo Tires. Toyo, the official tire of the UFC. He sent us a huge box of goodies, including some cool keychains that will be given away in the participant goodie bags. Linda and I were just with Team Campbell last night. They're celebrating their new arrival, Nash Campbell, their son, and they've been with me since the beginning. You can get a $5 off coupon at Campbell Automotive, which is located right here on Foothill Boulevard. Next Thursday, I go to Mother's Polish and see all the Holloway boys and my buddy Shane and Ken, picking up a slew of Mother's Polishes and waxes for giveaway. And then Honda of Glendale. How can I forget Darlene and Brian and Kathleen? My new Honda Monkey in blue should be hopefully coming in a couple of months, but they're always there giving away mostly helmets, which is all I want from them. We're big advocates of riding safe and wearing a helmet and wearing gloves and boots. And for those of you who are listening, that's another reminder. So we look forward to seeing her there. And then finally, I got word that Taylor from Go Powersports, I think Taylor won the mini bike build-off with Joe. Taylor's going to be coming to the event, as well as Jason. They're coming from Kentucky representing Go Powersports. They're bringing some goodies as well. They're really passionate at GoPowersports.com, and we look forward to having them as a part of the show. Once again, as a final reminder, don't miss Joe Petralia's Muscle Mini Bike video series that's launching soon. His first one's on rebuilding, or actually building up, I think stage 1 or 2, a new Tillotson motor. He's got some sponsor support from our friends at Go Powersports and others. Good for you, Joe. Congratulations. Keep things going. Look forward to seeing you on the 19th. What do you got for a date, E?
9/11 and 9/26.
Ooh, 9/11.
9/11. All right. So tentative dates 9/11 and 9/26. You know, it's a shame that we had 9/11 inherited such a bad fucking deal because of that tragedy. Maybe we can turn it around. So 9/11 and 9/26. Look forward to seeing you guys then. Thanks.
9/25.
Oh, 9/25. I thought he was going to change 9/11. So we got 9/11 and 9/25 listed as the next dates for the upcoming Joe's Minibike Reunion podcast. You wanted to have somebody on the podcast. Who was it?
Oh, yeah. Old Great Goat, Eric Adams.
Yes.
From the OMB podcast on Thursday night.
So, look, Ed, why don't you reach back out to him? I think that Karen Krause was helping us, and there was just a flip-flop in info. My understanding was that he didn't want to drive up.
No, he said he'd drive over.
Yes, so
he
I
said
said
he didn't want to talk on the phone because he lived too close. He wanted
great.
to drive
So
down.
it was a complete disconnect because I wanted him to come up rather than talk on the phone.
All
So
right,
if it was the opposite.
Yeah, we have to give him a date.
Yes. Now, his podcasts are Wednesdays, right?
No, Thursdays.
Okay, Thursdays. And where can they watch him? Facebook Live?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So who knows? Maybe we'll have Eric, the Gray Goat, join us. And Ed, let's take a look here. Why don't we shoot for the next one, 9/11?
Okay, I'll tell him the 9/11 then.
Either that or 9/26. We'll give him his choice.
On both then and see what he says.
Hey, if you got a suggestion or an idea of who you'd like to hear on the next Joe's Minibike Reunion podcast, go ahead and do that. Some final shout outs. I want to give a shout out to my buddy Rich Robitello back there in New York, my buddy Ronnie DeSalvatore, my brother-in-law Marv, and I guess everybody else who listens. Thanks for putting up with us today. We had a little technical difficulty at the front, but hey, it's just a podcast, right? We'll see you the next time, everybody.
Bye.
Joe's Minibike Show.